So when people say the government's hiding UFOs from us, that's not necessarily true.
Well, actually, the government, excuse my language, couldn't find their ass in a well-lighted room with
Very
those
true,
hands.
especially this government right now.
No, it doesn't matter any of them because let me tell you a story.
Go ahead.
It illustrates it because I like things to come alive instead of abstractions.
Yeah.
There used to be a famous astronaut named Gordon Cooper. And Gordon Cooper was a hero astronaut early on. Mercury went up. And when he was out at Edwards back in the 50s, I think it was 56, there was a vehicle, a UFO, broad daylight, landed out there on a dry lake bed. We have his whole testimony, all the information. And he's one of our Disclosure Project witnesses, although God bless him, he's passed away now. Years ago, I was giving a lecture to an organization here in Washington with him.
Okay.
And it was a legal group. They helped pick a lot of the Supreme Court justices. But he pulled me aside and he said, the Secretary of Defense at that time was Cohen under Clinton. And so Cohen had contacted him and asked for everything he had, everything. And he did. And so what Cohen wanted to do, the Secretary of Defense, was find the footage because Gordon Cooper, his team went out and filmed this object that landed broad daylight and was looked at it, saw it, put it on a general's plane, flew it back to Washington. Now that was in 1956 or 7. The Secretary of Defense of the United States, with all that actionable information, details, got back to Gordon Cooper and said, that has vanished. I don't have access to it. And Gordon Cooper was astonished. I said, I'm not. I said, I have not met a single honest flag officer or general, admiral, who is on the right side of the law and is not a criminal, who has access to this. The only people who have access to it are, by definition, people who are running amok of the Constitution of the United States and the laws of the United States. And so I said, this is how the system works. Have there been some CIA directors who've known about this? Absolutely. But they're the ones who are curated and brought up through the system, and then they lie to everyone else about it. Have there been some senators? Yes. And I know who they've been. Are there some members of the House? Yes. And those are people who are in great peril right now because of something I'll share with you later.
So who's keeping the secrets? How are they keeping the secrets, and why? And why would they keep it secret?
Yeah, the why is an interesting one, and that was the hardest thing for me to unpack in the 1990s prior to my meetings with people. Well, what I discovered is that this is a science and technology story more than an alien, whatever, fantastical story.
Right.
And that is, imagine technologies where you can, on this table, some little space this big, you could have a device that would run your house or your car or your business, pulling energy out of what's called the 0 point or quantum vacuum. Now, these technologies have been around for decades. This is what The Lost Century, that documentary is
100 years of...
100 years, and it's been around a long time. But the more refined ones also allow for motion and going up, So these technologies would completely terminate all oil, gas, coal, nuclear power, public utilities, petrodollar, all of it would go. It's $1,000 trillion. So it's about power.
$4 trillion, right?
Yes, exactly. It's way north of $1,000 trillion in assets and market cap.
Yeah.
And I'm actually talking to some big mutual funds that have $2 or $3 trillion about this coming out and how they're going to have to change their investment strategy. But this has been delayed so long that now the world is in a big problem. You have 3 billion people on the planet don't even have any way to cook their food. So they're cutting down rainforests. That's true, 3 billion.
The 0 point energy would solve that.
It would solve it instantly. And we have it.
Right.
Everyone's talking about, let's do a plug-in car and let's put a solar panel. I have solar panels at my farm out in Virginia. But to be honest with you, the real solution is here sitting in a black box being kept secret by a bunch of totalitarian fascists, to be honest. Let me be blunt. And they don't care anything about their power and money is all they care about.
Everybody on the planet would have it.
Everyone would have it.
No emissions.
No emissions, no pollution, and the cost is zero. After you bought the equivalent of your heat pump, right?
Yeah.
You never have a power bill. And that's true for if you drive an F-150. I used to have a Raptor. And, that thing would have a generator that would be putting out 1,000 horsepower and would be tapping into what's called this 0 point field. And you'd never have to plug it in. You wouldn't have to ever plug it in because it's pulling energy. It's estimated that if you had a coffee mug here, the amount of energy potentially and the space in a coffee mug could easily boil off all the oceans, that much energy.
Could you give in layman's terms how the 0-point energy would work?
Yeah, a layman's term electromagnetically is that you create certain very high voltage circuits at certain frequencies. And it's the frequencies combined with the voltages, very high, millions of volts, but at very, very specific cycles per second, and sometimes using specialized materials, and it perturbs or excites that 0 point. So look at it from a little bit of physics lesson. All matter is, if you get it right down to, is energy, and equals mc squared. Mm-hmm. But if you get down to the atomic level and the subatomic, they find that all of that is fluxing in and out, the subatomic particles, quantumly, out of this ocean of energy, which has now been quantified. And by the way, in the physics journals, published articles from Dr. Casimir in the 1950s proving this. This is not some wild theory.
Sure.
It's proven. But now what's not known is that covert programs, as well as certain ingenious inventors over the years, have discovered how to tap into that energy. So when we started, the whole modern era of this UFO issue really began with the detonation of the first atomic bomb. And when that happened, the ETs came in and said, we got a planet in trouble here.